Welcome everyone to the Q&A session for our upcoming course, Shamanic Practices for Spiritual Immunity. The 7-week journey to strengthen your health, shift your mindset, and empower your community. I'm Lisa Bonis, and it's truly my honor to be hosting this important Q&A conversation for the Shift Network, where we'll explore the teachings of Sandra Ingerman and address questions about her upcoming 7-week course, Shamanic Practices for Spiritual Immunity, which begins Tuesday, April 14th. And a little later, I'll explain how you can participate, even if you can't attend the live course sessions. But first, I want to introduce our guest. Sandra Ingerman is an award-winning author of 12 books, including Soul Retrieval, Mending the Fragmented Self, Medicine for the Earth, Walking in Light, and the Book of Ceremony, Shamanic Wisdom for Invoking the Sacred in Everyday Life. She's also the presenter of 8 audio programs produced by Sounds True. Sandra is a world-renowned teacher of shamanism and has been teaching for close to 40 years. She was chosen as one of the top 10 spiritual leaders of 2013 by Spirituality and Health magazine and was awarded the 2007 Peace Award from the Global Foundation for Integrative Medicine. And in just a few minutes, we're going to open up for your questions. But first, I want to bring Sandra online. Welcome, Sandra. It's so great to be with you today.
Hi, Lisa. Hi, everybody. It's a blessing to be here with all of you. And for me, the most important thing about living in times like we're living in now, even when times are not like we're living in now, is community. One of my strengths and one of my gifts is being able to build strong communities. And the reason I can do that is because it's so important to my own heart. I just really want people to feel held in love. I just feel that in the culture that we live in, and there are people from all over the world, and you all had different upbringings, and you all grew up in different cultures, most of us didn't receive the unconditional love of the creative forces of the universe. We did receive them, but we didn't know about that love because we got thrown into a family system where we oftentimes were not held in that unconditional love. It's a little hard to be in that state of unconditional love as a human with an ego that gets triggered pretty easily. And so in my courses, I like to give people the opportunity of what does it feel like to be in a circle where in every single session we're caring about each other. We're holding hands together. We don't need social distancing, where we can all share our light, we can all share our love, where we can all share our compassion together. Because you can't always be positive in the times that we live in. And so also needing to feel that love and compassion from our community to hold space for us during the difficult times. Holding space is one of the greatest gifts that we can really give each other right now. So let's begin just by closing our eyes and taking a few deep breaths. And I'd like to ask people to travel into their heart, feel their heart beating, and feel your heart connecting with the heartbeat of the earth. I know some of you are not familiar with my work, but one of the teachings that I've been bringing out that are so important for us to understand is that the earth and the elements have been here for billions of years. And so when I say connect with the heartbeat of the earth, you're connecting with a heartbeat of a living organism that's 4.6 billion years old. So as you do that, allow yourself to be held by the power of the earth, by the ancientness of the earth. This is all through your imagination. Your imagination is a great gift that we were all born with. So open yourself up. Let yourself connect with the heartbeat of the earth. She's strong. She can hold you in ways that nobody else can right now. Feel the love. Fill with the love. And then I'd like for all of us to see ourselves being transported to a beautiful sacred place in an old growth forest in nature, holding hands. It's daylight, it's dawn, the sun is coming up, it's the beginning of a new day. It feels like things have not changed that much with what's happening in the devastation category, but actually things are changing because we're part of nature's cycles. And every single day, the quality of light changes just a little bit. So change is also happening in the phase of life that we're all in right now. And this pandemic that is bringing our community together in a deeper and stronger way to pray together. So as we're transported to this beautiful place in nature, let's hold hands and share some of that love, some of that care, some of that kindness and honor and respect for each other. And feel a strength growing in you as you start to absorb the energy shared by our circle. One of the teachings I've been putting out since the early 90s is in challenging times, stay focused, stay centered, stay positive. Staying focused means keeping an eye on the path that you're walking. Staying centered means listening to the voice of your soul and the voice of your spirit, because all the information you need right now is right there. And if you can listen to that voice, it will bring you to center. And stay positive, even in the midst of great suffering and feeling like your heart is breaking open, which is really leading to heart expansion. So in staying positive, we keep opening up our hearts and keep emanating love and light while we also honor the depth of the suffering that some of us are feeling right now, whether it's not being able to have a livelihood, whether it's being scared about your health, being scared about your family. It's so easy for us to lose a positive way of thinking and going into doom and gloom. We do that really well as humans. We do that really easily. But when we do our spiritual practices, we start to see that there's greater meaning to every single challenge that comes into our life. And so we come together to explore the deeper meaning. And that's what this course will be about, is creating community, learning practices that help to bring us into a higher state of evolution, to help to increase our frequency, which from my spirit's information is the best way to make yourself immune right now and to let your soul guide you through the next step of the process. And so we're about getting tools right now because we've been living life in a certain way, and we need tools right now to change us. so that the world around us changes us, because our outer world is always going to be a reflection of our inner world. And that's a teaching that is tens of thousands of years old. So let's open up our eyes together after holding hands with each other, and of course, transporting yourself back to the room that you're in, and come back to the room that you're in with an open heart, ready to listen, ready to ask questions, ready to reflect on what is the next step in your spiritual path at this time to improve your health, to create community, and to also bring the work out to your community that you live in. So welcome everybody to this special call of Q&A. And I just wanted to talk for just a few minutes about a topic that I just didn't have time for on the intro call, but I feel that it's a very important topic to address. And so I'd like to just talk about it a little bit. One of the issues, as I keep on saying, and everybody knows, I've been in the shamanic world for 40 years formally. I didn't know I was in the shamanic world my whole entire life because I didn't grow up in a culture where that work was supported. And there's an issue that we've been talking about for 40 years in the shamanic community in the West. It's not talked about in Native communities because it's really not an issue for them. But in our culture, people who approach spiritual practices oftentimes start to move into what we call magical thinking. And it's where the fear level or the desperate level or the feeling of powerless is so strong that we believe that something magical is going to come in to make everything change immediately. And I've had students who have died who got caught up in magical thinking. It's a very, very common issue that comes up with people who are facing death. And they're so sure that the helping spirits or Jesus or whatever religious figure that they believe in is going to save them, and that death is definitely not on the table. It's not on the table. It doesn't matter how far they are, how much life support they are. They know they're going to be miraculously saved in a minute. I've talked to so many of these students the night before they died, and they said to me, "Spirit won't let me die." And what happened in these instances is that these people never had a chance to say goodbye to their families, their children, their friends, their loved ones. And so closure never really happened. And so we've always seen magical thinking in the shamanic community. It just changes with every catastrophic event that happens, where people's psychology, because people's spirit are not taking you here, it's your ego or personality that's taking you here, that if we join with enough people and we do a ceremony for 1 minute, the world goes back to normal and everything is fine. And there's a lot of that going on right now. I think I'm on something like 10 or 12 Facebook pages. I'm not active on all of them, but that's the big conversation that's going on. And on a lot of them is, let's join together and do a really short ceremony so that we can just go back to living our life as we've been doing. And there are miracles that happen in shamanism. I can't tell you how many miracles I've seen, not just in people's health and animals' health, but in the health of the land, and how catastrophic events have been avoided But when these miracles happen, either so much work, so much personal work was done, the only thing left was for the cure to happen. Um, so the cure happens in a minute. And I see that all the time in my practice with clients. They did so much work on themselves that I only had to put my finger on them and they're healed, because that was how they just needed something really quick. I'm giving a metaphor. I think you all understand that. I do more than just touch them, but the work goes pretty quickly. And that's a destiny issue for sure. That's definitely destiny. And then in the native cultures, what we see is people staying up 24 hours a day or all night ceremonies for days and weeks when a catastrophic event happens. And then when the miracle comes through, you think about what the people sacrificed to bring that miracle into fruition. So we have divine intervention with miracles, but that's typically a destiny thing. I've done a lot of research on this because I researched miracles for one of my earlier books. You have people who really do the work. They do the work every day, 7 days a week in native cultures. They watch their inner states of consciousness. They're just like us. They get mad, they get sad, they get scared, but they work those states through. They work with their inner landscape, as I talked about on the intro call. They do their ceremonies for extended periods of time, and then these miraculous changes happen in their community. But for most of us, where we haven't worked through all the dense darkness and those shadow states inside of us, or where we're not even making an effort to do that, when we come together for a ceremony that's really short, that's just for a few minutes, that goes into what we call in the shamanic community magical thinking. Or we've seen a lot of magical thinking with the coronavirus. I've had a lot of conversations with my students about this, where you see groups of people getting together and not listening to the advice to do social distancing, because they're absolutely positive that they're protected by spirit or other forces. And then every one of them gets the virus. And in a lot of cases, we're seeing whole groups dying because they weren't being realistic. So there's a place of magical thinking that we really want to hold on to. And what we really want to hold on to is if we do the deep work together in community and we pray together and we work at our altar in between sessions. It's not hard work. None of it's time consuming. It's just the state of consciousness that you hold every day and creating new habitual patterns. And so that's being realistic. That's doing the work. And then when something changes, it's cause and effect. We did the work that created that effect. But if you don't do the work and you just live in a state of denial, that's what magical thinking is. And so what I would like to invite you into is a circle who wants to hold hands together, to share love, to make sure we're all filled. Every single cell is filled with radiant light together. And we support each other and we pray for each other. We do our personal healing work through our journeys. We make life changes happen when we perform ceremonies over time together in a circle. and when you keep up the work. And then if you're ready, and there, you don't have to do this. A lot of my students don't do this. A lot of my students like to do their own personal work at home. They don't want to bring anything into community, but if you do, I'll be sharing very, very the simplest things that you can do that won't upset anybody from a different political persuasion or from a different religious denomination. And so it's really going to be a full course, but we're staying away from magical thinking. We're going to do the work. The work is going to fill us, our hearts, and it's going to make us feel like we have real meaning in our lives, finally. So that's the opening that I wanted to share for now. And I know that Lisa has a lot of questions that you're interested in me speaking to.
All right. Well, thank you, Sandra. That was a great way to start out. Really, that's a fantastic foundation for the conversation. We have the rest of our time together to dive into our viewers' questions as we prepare for her upcoming course. Once again, it's called Shamanic Practices for Spiritual Immunity, and it begins Tuesday, April 14th. And if you want to check out the website and learn more about the 7-week course, you can visit shamanicpracticescourse.com to see the full description. So let's go ahead and get started with the questions. As Sandra mentioned, I already do have a few that people have sent in, but if you have a question, go ahead and type it in. I'll be happy to read it all aloud. And you've already sort of covered this, but we do have a lot of people asking pretty much the same question, so I'll sort of generalize it. In general, people are either at home binge watching episodes of The Office or whatever, or they're on the front lines, desperately trying to save lives or keep the public supplied with the necessities of life and working as cashiers, or they're actually fighting for their own lives. So with such a tremendous dichotomy between these two worlds, what do you recommend for the folks who feel like they're just wasting their time sitting at home? What can we most effectively do to send energetic support to those who really are in the thick of it right now?
Well, that's what the course is about. Basically, every single solitary session, where whether you're on the front line or whether you're streaming or whether you're fighting for your health, and you're in the course. So there's the people who you care about who are not in the course, and then they're going to be those same populations in the course. I have nurses and doctors on my Facebook pages who are speaking. So I think what's really important is that what this course is going to give you, it's going to give you the tools for you, again, to do the inner work that you need to do to move through some of the dark and dense states inside of you, so that you're living your life at a higher frequency. This virus can't live at the frequencies that we're going to be working. It just can't. And there's some, I'm reading some really interesting articles on alternative ways of working with this virus, and a lot are on raising frequency. And that's what this work is all about. And that's what the ancestors have been teaching, again, for tens of thousands of years. And so in the course itself, we're going to be doing a ceremony every week that will support you, will support our circle, and will support the workers who are in the field, the people streaming the office, people who are dying. We're going to be doing every week. We're going to be honoring those who did die, because I was only able to do a really short honorable closure ceremony in the intro call. But with all the deaths that have gone on, we just want to give a little bit more than 3 minutes to wishing people a good path. to the transcendent realities, to a path of grace and a path of love and a path of being welcomed home in a really beautiful way. So the course is not just for the circle, it's everything that I do, every course that I've taught for the Shift Network. For the last, I started teaching a little over 5 years ago, has had, except for my last course, has had a ceremony for every person, every creature, and every element on the planet. And so that will be the same for this course. So we'll be addressing all those levels in the course. I have no doubt we're gonna have people with the coronavirus in the course, and we're gonna need to be able to hold space for them throughout their journey and whatever they're going through as they allow us in to do that. Even if it's only, we're gonna have a group altar where during the week, not during the formal sessions, you can keep traveling, and I'll teach you how to do this, to the altar to leave prayers for loved ones, people you don't know, countries, land masses, whatever you're called. There's going to be an altar in non-ordinary reality for the divine spirits to help to bring healing help to those that we're praying for in the best way that can happen. So all three levels are going to be addressed, whether people are in the course or not in the course. We're still going to be dealing with the same populations, if that makes some sense.
Yeah, it does. Thank you for covering that. You brought up an interesting point about how we need to live in this higher vibration, because we've got a question here from somebody who says, aside from transmuting negative feelings into love and light, what can we do to shield ourselves from the low vibrations of someone we live with and can't temporarily move away from? For example, if I live with an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so every single book I ever wrote, I taught the same way of working, and I'll teach it to you right now. I was at a party. A lot of you have heard this story because I've been telling this story for 40 years. I was at a party when I first got into shamanism in 1980 in Berkeley. And only in Berkeley would you sit around and talk about at a party, how do you protect yourself from other people's negativity? And we all shared. We went around the room and we all shared. And there was a Chumash medicine woman there. And she shared that there's a very powerful technique of visualizing yourself, or for those of you who aren't visual, experiencing yourself being enclosed by a translucent blue egg. And I immediately, blue is my favorite color, which a lot of people know because I only wear blue when I teach for the Shift Network. Blue is my favorite color, and I used to. I don't do that method anymore. I grew out of it. But for many, many years, I woke up every morning, and just as I put my clothes on, I put my blue egg on. And again, it's just seeing kind of like a blue film of your favorite color blue surrounding your body. And what I found is psychic darts could come at me from lovers, friends, my community, my boss, wherever they were coming from, but they couldn't get into me. But I could still emanate love. I could still do my healing work. I could still see my clients. I could still channel my spirits while I was teaching my workshops. I've taught it. My books have sold hundreds of thousands of copies when you put them all together. I have it in every one of my books, and people, I haven't heard from all of them, obviously, but everyone I've heard from is completely addicted to that way of working. There are other ways of working that I definitely will be sharing in the course, How to Protect Yourself. But for me, at this point, the best way to protect yourself is through the process of transfiguration, which I started to teach a little bit in the intro call. And we'll be working with it all 7 sessions, because it is the best way to deal with your spiritual immunity, but it's your best way to protect yourself in the dense collective right now. The issue that I'm having is, just to share a little bit with you personally, I've been through some really hard times in the last years, and found ways to still teach and live my life and smile and be joyful, because my inner landscape is so filled with beauty. But before the coronavirus happened, I go out. I don't have staff. I have to go to the post office. I have to go to the store. I run all my own errands, but I don't go out as much as most people do. And then the coronavirus happened, and I'm in isolation like everybody else is. And so what's happened to me, because this period of semi-isolation in my house is going on for 6 or 7 years now, is I'm very sensitive to dense collective energies. And I do everything possible to protect myself against those energies, because I have to be on all these Facebook pages where people are being incredibly negative right now. I have to be out in the world. I've been confronting a lot of negative energy on the activities that I do in the world. And so we all need to learn how to protect ourselves from these energies. And the blue egg is one of my favorite. I have others, but again, I'll teach those in the course. And then working with transfiguration, that will definitely, I got a lot of that from a dream that I had when Jesus came to me when I was in a workshop where I had a participant who wouldn't stop talking about evil spirits and how to protect herself from evil spirits. And I was at a workshop at a retreat center, and I went back to my room that night, and I had a dream, and Jesus showed up. And you know those pictures of the light coming down his arms and through his hands and into the world. And he said to me in the dream, if you are filled with light, there is no energy that can affect you. And I believe that to be true. In your particular case, you still have all the emotions of living with a partner who might be abusive, but spiritually, it's easy to protect yourself from absorbing that negative energy so that it doesn't go back to you. And if you send it back to him with love. Because in shamanism, what we've learned from all the native traditions is whatever you send out returns to you 3 times. So if somebody's sending me bad energy, I put, like you do in the mail, return to resender with love. Just like you do at the post office, but I put with love on the package.
All right. Thank you for that explanation. That was very helpful. For those of you who are just joining us, we're here with Sandra Ingerman learning about her upcoming course, Shamanic Practices for Spiritual Immunity, which begins on Tuesday, April 14th. And you can log on to shamanicpracticescourse.com for all the details and to register. So we have more questions here. Here's another one of those frequently asked questions, and I'm sure that you've seen people discussing this type of thing. So let me put it in general wording. People are wondering, is the virus nature's way of teaching us a lesson? Is the virus a software upgrade for humanity? What are your thoughts on that whole big picture?
That question, of course, is all over the web. Why did this virus come? And I talked about it on the intro call. I'm not going to say what I think because Sandra Ingerman, I'm just thinking from my personality. I want to give you what Spirit says because the spirits live in a transcendent reality and they see everything from a different perspective. And what I shared on the intro call was that the very first thing I learned in shamanism was one of the very first things I ever learned in shamanism was that epidemics come from the collective energies of an area. So usually we're looking at a city. Right now we're looking at the whole world. It's think of all the negative energies that have been going into the collective. We've had all the political fighting going on around immigration, and everybody has their side, and everybody's very emotional about it. And are people taking care of what's the energy that they're sending out into the collective and what's raining down on every single living being, your favorite tree, your favorite pet, your favorite grandchild. It's all raining down, everything that we're sending out. And then there were the fires in Australia, and there was the fire in the Amazon. And of course, people are making the connection that the Amazon is considered by the natives the lungs of the earth. So in the native viewpoint, different places in the world are major organs of the earth. So I live in New Mexico, and the belief in the from the Native Americans in the Four Corners, meaning where the Pueblo people live, is that the Rio Grande River is the main heart artery of the earth. And so the natives believe that the Amazon is the lungs of the earth. And all of a sudden, we have this virus that's connected to the lungs. It's killing people with weak lungs. And so, from a shamanic point of view, not everything that's coming from Sandra Ingerman, because Sandra Ingerman isn't as wise as the spirits are. I do have wisdom, being a spiritual practitioner for a really long time, but the mystery of the virus, we don't understand. I met with I don't want to go off track. I'm just trying to bring this to try to make some sense to you. I worked with this group of spirits called the Ancient Ones, and they're billions of years old. And what they said to me is, we're here on the earth for a blink of an eye, a blink of an eye. We're not even here for a millionth of a second as far as the earth is concerned. So we're here for a very short time, and everything is connected, but we're in a really short period of history, a tiny period of the history of this planet Earth. And so we don't know how long this has actually been brewing. Because again, as egos and personalities, we see linear time and it's so small, but we don't know the bigger picture. I don't know the bigger picture. That's why I journey to the spirits to get the bigger picture. And what the spirits are telling me is that we have to do the work that I will be teaching in this course. It's not hard. It's not time intensive, but it's learning how to change your way of life so that you're feeding the planet and the collective with good energy, which clears something like the coronavirus, instead of millions of people flooding the collective with negative energy that has created this virus that's actually killing an amazing number of people. So from a shamanic point of view, this virus is a spiritual virus. It's a spiritual illness. And I'm not saying that we don't deal with it on a physical level. We have to deal with it on a physical level. In healing, we have to deal with body, mind, and spirit. You can't say, I'm only going to deal with this on an emotional level. I'm only going to deal with it on a spiritual level. I'm only going to deal with it on a physical level. You have to do all of it. What I can teach you is how to do the piece on the spiritual work that will help to clear the collective so that a positive change can happen and that all of us move into a higher level of consciousness so that we don't have to create this all over again.
Okay, thank you for going into that. Big question. Good answer. Thank you. Now, I'm looking at the clock here. We do have time for a few more questions, but before we take those, let me go ahead and give a few details about the course itself for those who would like to know. Again, it's called Shamanic Practices for Spiritual Immunity. And this is going to be just a truly powerful 7-week journey with Sandra under her expert guidance, where you will energetically join hands with your shamanic community as you master practices to protect yourself from illness, nourish your spirit, and flood our world with healing, love, and light. And the 7-week course takes place on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, starting Tuesday, April 14th. And as I mentioned earlier, if you can't join us live, that's fine. You will not miss the teachings at all. You'll receive audio and video recordings, transcripts, and all course handouts on your course homepage. Also, I'd like to remind everyone that we offer a no-risk money-back guarantee, giving a full 2 weeks until April 28th in this case to make sure that you absolutely love it. And as an added option, all participants are welcome to connect in a private Facebook community group so you can stay connected with one another and also converse with Sandra between classes. Also, everyone who registers receives the Shamanic Practices for Spiritual Immunity bonus collection. First, you'll receive an audio teaching from Sandra entitled Introduction to Shamanic Journeying. Then you'll get a video dialogue with Sandra and Heather Ash Amara called Honoring the Elements and Recapitulation. Next, you'll receive an audio dialogue with Sandra and Hank Wesselman entitled The Emergence of Western Shamanism. You'll also get an audio dialogue with Sandra and Cecile Carson called Shamanism in Ordinary Landscapes. Plus, you'll receive 2 short PDF excerpts from Sandra from her book, The Book of Ceremony. And when you register by midnight Pacific on Thursday, April 9th, you'll receive these extra bonus gifts. That is an audio dialogue with Sandra and Robert Moss entitled Dreamers, Shamans, and Soul Recovery, and a video dialogue with Sandra and Renee Baribeau called How Our Work Deepens Over Time. And Sandra, regarding one of those bonuses, I understand that you'd like everyone to listen to the bonus session called Introduction to Shamanic Journeying before attending the first course session. Would you like to explain why this is so important?
Well, I didn't know that was being put into the instructions. You don't have to listen to the 90-minute. I'm sorry, that was not an instruction that I gave. But I know that there are people who are interested in signing up for this course who have no experience with shamanic journeying. And the 90-minute introduction that I did for another course that I taught for this Shift Network where I wasn't going to have the time to teach people how to journey from, the beginning. They were going to have to dive in quicker and do some more work on their own. So what I did is I sat, and the Shift Network recorded it for me. I wrote, I spoke a 90-minute lecture on everything that you can possibly need to know about shamanic journeying, to prepare people for the course. I because of the times that we're living in, I don't want to stress people out and start to say there's prerequisites for this course and you got to do all this work before this course. And so the way I designed it is you don't need a prerequisite. I will lead everything. I'll lead you through everything so that you don't need a formal course on shamanic journeying. But the 90-minute lecture is really interesting to listen to. It's a whole history on shamanic journeying and what shamanic journeying is and how shamans journey, who are the helping spirits, and what can they do for you, and how to ask for healing. And so it's very interesting, but it's not a prerequisite for the course.
Okay, great. Thank you for clearing that one up. So then before we get back into questions, since this is a new course, what are you most excited about with this new one that you're offering?
Well, what I'm the most excited about, because actually, as I shared on the intro call, a lot of what I'm teaching were practices that come from other courses I've taught through the Shift Network. So for some of you, some of the work, of course, I'm going to put a different twist on it because everything that we're going to be doing is for the times that we're living in. So I can't teach any exercise exactly the same as I did before. We're just in a different time. But, the principles will be similar. What I'm so excited about is that we'll all be doing the work together and sharing together. The thing to know about me and the Facebook page is I answer every single solitary post. I make sure that we're working as a strong community together, that every person is welcomed in with love and they know it, and that they know they're held in love throughout the entire course and after. I'm still on most of my Shift Network Facebook pages years later. We created these really, really strong communities. And so I'm really excited about the community aspect of this course, of how, yes, we're doing our personal work, but how can we also use it to be a great support to each other during this time so that all of us can stay focused, positive, and centered together. And so we're really looking out for each other besides ourselves. And again, I'll be teaching how to take these simple practices and share them in your communities, whether it's a church or a school. I know people can't go anywhere right now, but you can share on FaceTime with your family some really simple practices. You don't have to say they're shamanically based. So this is a course of really evolving who we are, moving into a whole nother state of consciousness so that this virus can move out and this virus can stop giving us a very hard lesson and bringing us to this state of suffering. And what does it feel like to come together in such support with a global community from around the world, praying together and working together and helping each other? So I'm really excited about that part because I think that the magic of shamanism was how strong the shamanic communities were and how people shared their gifts. And we'll have the Facebook page where people can share information that's come from their from the practices that I'll be leading in the course, so that we can all learn from each other. And lastly, I know I'm going on, besides the Facebook page being such a place of love, and a place to continue the work with our community, so we continually create this tight circle that has no holes in it. Also, in case some of you are confused, am I going to lose something if I don't perform the ceremony live with the rest of the group? What if I can't perform the ceremony for 2 weeks? In shamanism, we work outside of time. And so whenever you can join in on the ceremony, you're actually stepping into the same collective energy that went on as the time of the ceremony. You still feed more power into that ceremony. And it's like you're there the same time that we're working. And it's just something known in shamanism, that shamans don't do things like, let's on Tuesday at 5 o'clock all pick up our drum together, because they know that all the work that people are doing at different times adds just to the exponential power. So it really doesn't matter if you can be on the call live or if you have to listen to it at another time. The ceremonies will still be as powerful for you and as powerful for all your loved ones and for all of life on the planet.
Okay, thank you for spelling all of that out. And let me throw in a question here. What you were just talking about how everything all happens, at the same time. So does that mean that every ceremony that's ever been done or will be done, if they have the same basic essence, it's all sort of building and building, and is that how we reach critical mass, by having enough people feeding into this?
Absolutely.
Ceremony?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not enough people feeding the ceremony. It's being able to feed the ceremony from a sacred place. And so the problem is people in the West don't know how to perform ceremony. They don't know about spiritual hygiene, of how you walk into a ceremony and approach a ceremony so that you don't ruin the power of the ceremony. So, because there's so much misunderstanding about it, people come home from work, they drop their bags, they try to get, I'm not talking about my courses, they try to get on some online ceremony that's going on, but they're not in the right place. So they're not feeding the ceremony from heart, they're feeding ceremony from their ego. And that takes away the power from the ceremony. So people need a better foundation of what is the preparation work that you need to do so that you're actually feeding the energy of a ceremony that's going to create a miraculous change. A lot of energy has to go into that. And that's something that I'll be teaching, of how do you clear yourself? How do you step into a pristine state so that we have the possibility of bringing through miracles in our ceremonies?
All right, cool. That sounds great. Now, before we go, there are a lot of people who are joining us who are just learning about shamanism and how this whole thing works. So let's dedicate some time to answering some really fresh and clean questions. Like somebody's asking, how do you know if you're called to be a shaman? Another one's, is it true that you're born a shaman and that you can't actually become one if it's not your calling? Another person is saying, I would like to drum and rattle and sing and embrace this lifestyle. However, for some silly reason, I worry about what others think. I worry about feeling silly or embarrassed. How can I get beyond this?
Yeah, I have. Well, first, I guess I should answer the first question. There are different levels of becoming a shaman. To become what is called a true shaman in Native American, not Native American culture, in Native American cultures, but in cultures all over the world, the word shaman is actually a Siberian word. It comes from the Tungus tribe in Siberia, which means one who knows, healer, one who sees in the dark. And so those are shamans who had a particular destiny. Like I got hit by lightning at the age of 7, and that's a classic calling to be a shaman, being hit by lightning. I got called very early, and I had no elders to help me. So my path was quite difficult. But yes, you're born to be a shaman. And why do we have, at this point, tens of thousands of people journeying right now? Were they all born to be shamans? No. Every one of us, shamanism is a practice of direct revelation. And what that means is with direct revelation, we all were born with the ability to get our own spiritual information. We don't have to go through anybody. There's no voting in shamanism. Whatever you get for yourself is right. The spirits are giving you unique, direct information for you, for your healing, for your growth, for your evolution. And so we have tens of thousands of what we call shamanic practitioners who practice shamanism. Shamanism is also a way of life. It's how you live your life in harmony with nature. It's a nature-based practice of talking to everything in nature and building relationships with the land where you live and all the nature beings where you live. There's healing practices. So people are drawn, a lot of people like to learn shamanic journeying. Everybody I know loves to do work with nature. Some people like to specialize in shamanic healing work, and some are more gifted than others. You have to understand that shamanism dates back over 100,000 years, and so the practice is changing. It's evolving over time. Nobody's practicing shaman. There's no tribe on the planet that's practicing shamanism as it was practiced 100,000 years ago. Even tribes right now are changing their healing chants because the times we're living in are changing, so their chants have to change. So it's an organic practice that keeps growing and evolving. And that's why it's still alive today. And so right now on the planet, which is different in a native culture, we have millions and millions of people, and people are drawn to shamanic practices and to a shamanic way of life. It doesn't mean that they're technically a shaman. If they do great healing work, their community calls you a shaman, but you never take that name for yourself. If you call yourself a shaman, you most likely lose your power because it's seen in the universe as bragging. And so the community might say, oh, there's this great shaman that lives over there. You should go see them. But that's something different than people today opening up to the practice of direct revelation, which is all of our birthright. And we need everyone who's willing to open up to direct revelation right now. We need that help from the transcendent realms right now. And so it's important to have a lot of shamanic practitioners on the planet.
All right, perfect. Thank you. We're out of time. I hate when this happens. This has been, as usual, just a fascinating conversation. I want to thank our viewers for being with us today and for all of your terrific questions. Once again, Shamanic Practices for Spiritual Immunity starts Tuesday, April 14th. And again, you can visit shamanicpracticescourse.com to learn more and to register. So, Sandra, do you have any final words? I know we've talked about a lot and we don't have much time, but what are your final thoughts?
Well, where this is an opportunity for us. We're in a place. It's a hard place. We're definitely in a hard place. I think you have to have been doing spiritual practices 24/7 since birth, to not hit bumps where we are right now with our personality moving into fear and anger. And so I just really want to welcome you into a course where you don't need a lot of previous knowledge. You just need to want to enter into the spiritual landscapes to look at how you can tap into your own light that you were born with, how you can work with your dreams to bring healing into your life. How you can work with crystals to be a transmitter of love that goes out into the world. And so, I just really want to invite people to join me on in a course of practices that have been known for thousands of years to be really potent. There's no guessing here. We already know the results of these practices. We have thousands of years of history before us of people doing this same work. And what people don't understand is in shamanism, the practices are simple. The more complex, the less ability we have to focus. And so the practices tend to be simple so that we can hold our focus, which is a challenge for people in the West. And so this is an opportunity for you to come together with a group of all different levels of spiritual knowledge, of shamanic knowledge. But what we have in common is a love for life, a love for nature, a love for the earth, that all the elements, and for the web of life. And this is a way for us to grow personally in this course with very simple practices to help each other stand strong together and to help our communities with some comfort and with some bringing ways. Because right now, a lot of people feel powerless. And the one thing that this course will definitely bring you is a feeling of not being in control of everything, because we're not in control of life, but feeling like you have the power to ride whatever waves the river of life is bringing us all to. We're all riding this river together. And so let's do some ceremony together. Join me in that. And I send blessings to all of you. And I hope that some of you will decide to join the course and work together. And for those of you who don't, blessings to you. And may you find the work that calls to you right now to evolve and ride the waves of the times we're in.
All right. Wow. Well, thank you again, Sandra. Even when we're talking about some heavy stuff, it's always so delightful and comforting to talk to you. So thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
And once again, thank you to everyone who joined us today. On behalf of all of us at the Shift Network, I wish you well and look forward to having you on this course or perhaps another one in the future. Have a great day, everyone.